In Season 5, Episode 14 of Adventure Time, there is a scene where Simon Petrikov sits in a room full of videotapes he has recorded for Marceline. He does not remember her name. He does not remember his own. He is watching the tapes, watching a version of himself that no longer exists, and the expression on his face is not sadness. It is confusion. The man in the tapes is a stranger. The crown has eaten everything that made Simon who he was, and what remains is a shell that cannot even comprehend the shape of its own loss. The show plays this for tragedy, but there is a darker reading, one that the show never states but never contradicts. And it begins with a single question that changes everything. What if the crown is not destroying Simon? What if it is replacing him? Before we go any further, a quick note. If you enjoy long-form content like this, subscribing genuinely helps the channel continue making these videos. It is free, and it takes a few seconds. Now, back to the question. That question, the question of replacement rather than destruction, is the thread that connects every dark theory about every major character in Adventure Time. Because this is a show built on the idea that identity is fragile, that the line between who you are and who you become is thinner than you think, and that the most unsettling transformations are the ones that happen so slowly you do not notice until it is too late. Every character in this show is carrying something they did not choose. Every character is, in some reading, a victim of forces they cannot see. And the theories that fans have built around these characters are not conspiracies. They are the logical extensions of what the show itself is telling you, if you are willing to follow the implications to their darkest conclusions. There is a dark theory about every major Adventure Time character that once you hear it, you cannot unhear. And tonight, you are going to hear all of them. The first of these theories is the one that has followed the show since its earliest seasons, and it concerns Finn himself. The theory is simple on the surface, but devastating in its implications. Finn is the last human in U. He was found as a baby, abandoned on a leaf in the middle of the woods, crying alone. Joshua and Margaret, a pair of dogs, found him and raised him as their own. He grew up in a world where he is the only member of his species, surrounded by candy people and fire elementals and talking mountains. And he never once breaks down about it. He never sits in a corner of the tree fort and grieves. He never asks the hard question that you would expect any person in his situation to ask, which is simply, why am I the only one? The dark theory asks why Finn does not grieve, and the answer it proposes is that Finn is not handling his situation. He is avoiding it. The adventures, the heroism, the constant forward motion of his life are not expressions of courage. They are expressions of denial. Finn fights because fighting is easier than feeling. He saves people because saving people gives him a purpose that does not require him to confront the void at the center of his identity. He is the last of his kind, and he has built an entire life around never sitting still long enough to think about what that means. The evidence for this reading is scattered across the series, and it accumulates with a patience that mirrors the show's own storytelling. In the episode The Hall of Egress, Season 7, Episode 24, which aired on April 14, 2016, Finn becomes trapped in a psychological loop where he can only move forward by closing his eyes and refusing to look at reality. The episode is one of the most surreal in the entire series, and it functions as a metaphor for Finn's entire approach to existence. He moves through the world with his eyes closed. He does not look at the hard things. He does not sit with discomfort. He runs toward the next adventure because the alternative is standing still, and standing still means confronting the silence where his species used to be. There is a moment in the episode Dungeon Train, Season 5, Episode 36, where Finn discovers a magical train that generates an endless series of monsters to fight. He stays on the train for what is implied to be weeks, fighting non-stop, sleeping only when his body forces him to, eating whatever he can find between battles. Jake begs him to leave. Finn refuses. The train gives him exactly what he needs, which is a reason to never stop moving. The show plays this as an addiction metaphor, and that reading is valid, but the dark theory reads it as something more specific. Finn is not addicted to fighting. He is addicted to distraction. The moment the fighting stops, the silence returns. And the silence is where the questions live. Why am I alone? Where are the others? What happened to my people? Finn has been running from those questions since the day Joshua and Margaret found him on that leaf. And every adventure he goes on is another step in the wrong direction. The coma theory, which circulated widely in the early days of the fandom around 2012 and 2013, takes this interpretation to its extreme. The theory proposes that Finn is not in a fantasy world at all. He is a normal human boy who suffered a traumatic event, perhaps the death of his dog, perhaps something worse, and fell into a coma. U is the dream his unconscious mind constructed to protect him from reality. Jake is his real dog, the only companion he had before the coma. The candy people, the ice wizards, the talking swords. All of it is the elaborate architecture of a mind that would rather build an entire world than face the one it lost. The theory gained traction because of the show's frequent engagement with dream logic and altered states of consciousness. Puhoi has Finn live an entire lifetime in a pillow dimension, growing old and dying, only to return to his body as a teenager with no memory of what happened. The episode Is That You?, Season 6, Episode 19, has Finn and Jake navigate a series of nested realities inside Prismo's time room that blur the line between dream and waking and death and life. The show does not confirm the coma theory, but it refuses to make the theory impossible, and that refusal is itself a kind of answer. Finn's arm is the physical manifestation of this pattern. Finn loses his right arm in the Season 6 premiere, Escape from the Citadel, which aired on April 21, 2014. When his father Martin Mertens abandons him. The arm is ripped off when Finn clings to his father's escaping ship, and the grass sword, a cursed weapon bonded to his body since Season 5, severs the limb to save his life. The loss is not temporary. Finn spends multiple episodes with a missing arm before eventually growing a replacement from the grass sword's magical residue. But the original arm is gone. In storytelling, the loss of a limb is one of the oldest symbols of sacrifice and disillusionment. Finn loses his arm at the exact moment he loses his father. The physical loss mirrors the emotional one with a precision that cannot be accidental. He reached for someone who was supposed to love him, and the reaching itself caused the damage. The grass sword, the weapon that saves him by severing the connection, is itself a curse, a thing that bonded to Finn against his will in the episode Blade of Grass, Season 5, Episode 45, and acts on its own logic, independent of Finn's desires. Finn did not choose to lose his arm. The choice was made for him by a weapon he did not fully understand, in service of a separation he did not want. And the deeper you look at this pattern, the more it repeats across timelines. In the Farm World timeline, created by the Lich's Wish in Season 5, an alternate Finn loses his arm to the Crown's influence. In Shoko's life, Finn's past incarnation, she has only one arm before the story even begins. In the Pillow world of Puhoi, alternate Finn lives a full life but loses everything when the reality dissolves. The arm keeps disappearing. Across timelines, across incarnations, across alternate realities, some version of Finn is always losing the same piece of himself. The Dark Theory proposes that this is not coincidence. It is cosmological. Finn's essence has been incarnated many times through the Catalyst comets, and each incarnation carries the same damage. The universe keeps taking Finn's arm because the arm is the price of being Finn. The comet needs a hero. The hero costs an arm. The transaction has been happening for millions of years, and Finn, who lives one life at a time, can never see the pattern he is trapped in. The second set of dark theories concerns Princess Bubblegum, and they are among the most disturbing in the show because they require you to reinterpret a character the show initially presents as one of its clearest heroes. Bonnie Bell Bubblegum is over 800 years old. She created the Candy Kingdom from nothing. She built its buildings, invented its technology, and most importantly, created its citizens. She made the Candy People. She designed them. She chose their intelligence levels, their personalities, their capacities. She is their mother, their queen, their scientist, their god. And the dark theory is that she is also their warden. The evidence builds across seasons with the slow patience of a prosecution building a case. In the episode The Cooler, Season 6, Episode 22, which aired on November 6th, 2014, it is revealed that Bubblegum has been conducting covert surveillance on every kingdom in U. She has hidden cameras in the Fire Kingdom. She monitors Flame Princess's activities. She tracks the movements of neighboring rulers without their knowledge or consent. When Flame Princess discovers the surveillance and confronts Bubblegum, the confrontation is one of the show's most uncomfortable scenes because Bubblegum does not apologize. She justifies. She says she was protecting people. She says the cameras were necessary. She says the threat was real and her response was proportional, and the viewers left to decide whether they believe her, and the Dark Theory has already decided that they should not. In the episode Rattleballs, Season 5, Episode 46, it is revealed that Bubblegum created an army of robotic sword fighters to defend the Candy Kingdom. When the robots became too aggressive, she ordered them all destroyed. Every single one. Not decommissioned, not reprogrammed, destroyed. One survived by hiding in the ruins of a Candy Kingdom's old battlefield, living in secret, training alone, terrified that Bubblegum would find him and complete the order. The survivor, Rattleballs, is introduced as a sympathetic figure, a sentient being who was condemned to death by his creator for a flaw in his programming that was not his fault. Bubblegum made him. Bubblegum made the flaw, and Bubblegum ordered the execution. The Dark Theory follows this logic to its conclusion. If Bubblegum created the Rattleballs and destroyed them when they were inconvenient, What prevents her from doing the same to the candy people? The answer, in the dark reading, is nothing. The candy people exist at Bubblegum's pleasure. She made them. She can unmake them. And the theory proposes that the candy people's defining traits, their sweetness, their innocence, their tendency to panic at the slightest danger, their unquestioning loyalty to their princess, are not accidental. They are by design. Bubblegum did not just create a people, she engineered a population that would never challenge her authority. The episode All Your Fault, Season 5, Episode 12, provides the most explicit evidence for this reading. In the episode, the Lemongrabs have obtained the formula that can bring candy to life, and they have been using it recklessly, creating candy citizens without any of the careful design that Bubblegum applies to her own creations. The result is horrifying. The lemon people are grotesque, suffering, confused, and in pain. They are what candy life looks like when it is made without control. And the implication is unavoidable. Bubblegum's candy people look the way they do because Bubblegum chose how they would look. The lemon people look the way they do because no one made that choice for them. The difference between the two populations is not nature. It is design. And the designer is Bubblegum. Tree Trunks, the elderly elephant who is one of the few genuinely independent characters in the Candy Kingdom, calls Bubblegum a fascist in the episode Apple Wedding, Season 5, Episode 37, which aired on March 17, 2014. The show treats this line as comic relief, an old lady making a dramatic accusation at a wedding. The audience laughs, but the dark theory does not laugh. Tree Trunks is the only character in the series who says out loud what the show has been building toward for seasons. And the show buries the truth in a joke, which is, the theory argues, exactly what a show about a benevolent dictatorship would do. The Hot Diggity Doom and the Comet two-parter that closes Season 6 shows the one-time democracy comes to the Candy Kingdom. The King of Ooh, a con artist, wins a legitimate election and deposes Bubblegum. The candy people chose someone else. They exercised agency. And what happens? Bubblegum eventually returns to power. The King of Ooh is revealed as a fraud, and the status quo is restored. The show frames this as a happy ending. The dark theory frames it as confirmation. Democracy was tried. It failed. The benevolent dictator returned. And the candy people went back to being sweet and obedient and trusting, because that is what they were made to be. The darkest extension of the Bubblegum theory connects her governance to her immortality. When you have lived for 800 years, a single candy person's lifespan is a blink. A single person's suffering is a statistical event, not a tragedy. Bubblegum has outlived generations of her own citizens. She has watched them age, decay, and dissolve while she remains unchanged. The theory proposes that this experience has fundamentally altered her relationship to individual life. She does not value people less than she used to. She has simply expanded the timescale on which she evaluates decisions. A policy that causes suffering in the short term but prevents catastrophe over centuries looks different when you are the one who will live through those centuries. The candy people think in terms of days and weeks. Bubblegum thinks in terms of millennia. And the gap between those perspectives is where the ethical violations happen. She imprisoned Flame Princess as a newborn. She ordered the destruction of the Rattleballs. She maintains a surveillance network that covers every kingdom in Ooh. She engineered a population that cannot meaningfully resist her. And every single one of these actions has a reasonable justification. Flame Princess was genuinely dangerous. The Rattleballs were genuinely aggressive. The surveillance did detect genuine threats. The candy people's innocence does make them easier to protect. The dark theory is not that Bubblegum is wrong. It is that she is right, and that being right when you have the power to create and destroy life is the most dangerous thing of all. The third theory concerns the Ice King, and it sits at the intersection of the show's greatest tragedy and its most unsettling philosophical question. The standard reading of Simon Petrikov's transformation is familiar to anyone who has watched the show past Season 3. Simon was a kind, intelligent antiquarian who found a magical crown at a dockside market in Scandinavia. He put the crown on, and it began to change him. It gave him ice powers, but slowly erased his mind, his memories, his identity, until nothing remained but the Ice King, a pathetic, lonely figure who kidnaps princesses and cannot remember the name of the woman he once loved. The show frames this as a story about mental illness, about the slow loss of self that accompanies conditions like Alzheimer's disease. And that reading is powerful and valid and has moved millions of viewers to tears. But the dark theory proposes something more specific and more frightening. It begins with the episode Evergreen, Season 6, Episode 24, which aired on January 22nd, 2015. The episode takes place 65 million years ago, during the Cretaceous period, and it tells the origin story of the crown. An ice elemental named Urgence Evergreen built the crown as a last resort to destroy an approaching catalyst comet that threatened all life on Earth. The crown was designed to grant its wearer their deepest wish. Evergreen intended to wear it himself and wish the comet away, but he was incapacitated before he could put it on, and his young dinosaur apprentice, Gunther, wore it instead. Gunther's deepest wish was not to destroy the comet. Gunther's deepest wish was to be like his master. The crown granted that wish, transforming Gunther into a distorted, childlike copy of Evergreen, and the comet struck Earth unchecked, causing the mass extinction of the dinosaurs. The dark theory is this: the crown did not malfunction. It is still granting Gunther's wish. Every person who has ever worn the crown has been transformed into a version of Evergreen as filtered through Gunther's childlike understanding. Simon Petrikov did not lose his mind to madness. His mind was overwritten by a 65-million-year-old template. The Ice King is not Simon gone crazy. The Ice King is Gunther's impression of Evergreen, running on Simon's hardware. The princess obsession makes sense under this reading because Evergreen was distant and cold, and Gunther wanted his approval. And the crown translates that desire into a compulsive need for the attention and affection of royal figures. The erratic behavior makes sense because Gunther was a child, and the template the crown imposed was a child's understanding of an adult, incomplete and simplified, and prone to tantrums. This reading makes Simon's fate infinitely darker. He did not decline. He was erased. The person you see when you look at the Ice King is not a degraded version of Simon. It is someone else entirely, wearing Simon's body, living in Simon's house, surrounded by Simon's possessions, and comprehending none of it. The Ice King's occasional flashes of lucidity, the moments where something like Simon surfaces briefly before being pulled back under, are not the real person fighting through the illness. They are glitches in the overwrite, moments where the original programming bleeds through before being suppressed by the template that replaced it. Betty Groff's sacrifice becomes catastrophically tragic under this reading. Betty dedicated her existence to saving Simon after she was pulled forward in time in the episode Betty Season 5, Episode 48, which aired on March 3rd, 2014. She studied magic, sought cosmic power, confronted entities beyond human comprehension, and in the series finale Come Along With Me, she merged with Gold, the embodiment of chaos, to neutralize the crown and free Simon from its influence. She succeeded. The crown's power was broken. Simon was restored. But the dark theory asks what exactly was restored. If the crown did not degrade Simon but replaced him, then the person who emerges from the crown's removal is not the same Simon who put it on. It is whatever remains after decades of overwriting. The crown was not a disease that could be cured. It was a format that could be reversed. But reversing a format does not restore the original data. It leaves the disk empty. The dark theory proposes that the Simon who wakes up in the finale is not the Simon Betty loved. He is a reconstruction, a person built from fragments, missing pieces he does not know are missing, carrying gaps he cannot feel. Betty gave everything to save someone who may no longer exist in the form she remembers, and she will never know, because she is no longer Betty. She is Goal Betty, a fusion of love and chaos that departed from Ooh and was never seen again. Two people who loved each other were transformed into something unrecognizable, and the show calls this a happy ending, and the dark theory calls it something else entirely. The fourth theory concerns Marceline the Vampire Queen, and it is about the cost of immortality that the show acknowledges but never fully calculates. Marceline is over 1,000 years old. She was born sometime around the year 990 in the show's timeline, the daughter of a human woman named Elise and Hunson Abadir, the Lord of Evil, ruler of the Nightosphere. She was a child during the Mushroom War, the nuclear apocalypse that destroyed human civilization. She survived the aftermath with the help of Simon Petrikov, who slowly lost his mind to the crown while protecting her. She was abandoned by her father. She wandered the post-apocalyptic wasteland alone. She became a vampire hunter, tracking down and destroying the remaining vampires in Ooh one by one. She was bitten by the Vampire King in her final battle and became the thing she had been hunting. She has been alive for a millennium since. The dark theory starts with a calculation: 1,000 years. Think about that for a moment. Really think about it? The average human friendship lasts about 7 years. The average romantic relationship lasts about 2.5 years. A human life in its entirety is about 80 years. Marceline has been alive for 12.5 human lifetimes. She has outlived every friend she has ever made, with the exception of Bubblegum and other immortals. And the dark theory proposes that the weight of that math is more than any person can carry, no matter how strong they are. The evidence is in the pattern of Marceline's relationships, and the pattern is always the same. She gets close to someone, she pushes them away. She writes a song about the pain of the distance she created. She moves on, she repeats. Her relationship with Bubblegum follows this pattern exactly. They dated, they broke up. The breakup, as revealed in the Distant Lands special Obsidian, which aired on November 19, 2020, was caused by Bubblegum's inability to be vulnerable, but the dark theory suggests that Marceline's contribution to the breakup was equally significant and less discussed. Marceline sabotages closeness because closeness is what hurts when it ends. And for Marceline, everything ends. Everyone dies, everyone ages, everyone leaves one way or another because she is immortal and they are not. The Stakes miniseries, which aired as 8 episodes in Season 7 beginning on November 16, 2015, explores this directly. Marceline attempts to remove her vampirism, to become mortal again, to rejoin the cycle of living and dying that she has been watching from the outside for 1,000 years. She undergoes a procedure that extracts the vampires she absorbed during her hunting days, releasing them as separate entities. She fights them again, one by one. The Fool, the Empress, the Hierophant, the Moon, the Vampire King, each one embodies a quality of vampirism that has become part of Marceline's identity. Each fight is a confrontation with a part of herself. In the end, she is rebitten by the Vampire King and becomes a vampire once more. The miniseries presents this as acceptance. Marceline learns to live with what she is. But the dark theory reads the ending differently. Marceline did not accept her vampirism. She failed to escape it. She tried to become mortal, to become vulnerable, to become the kind of person who could grow old alongside the people she loves, and the universe would not let her. The vampirism is not just a power set or an identity, it is a prison, and the bars are invisible because they look like strength, and immortality, and eternal youth, and all the things that mortal people think they want. The Vampire King's final words add a layer that the show never fully unpacks. Before his death, the Vampire King tells Marceline that vampirism is not a curse but an evolution, that resistance causes suffering, and that acceptance is the only path to peace. The dark theory takes this at face value and asks whether the Vampire King was right. Marceline's pain does not come from being a vampire. It comes from trying to be human while being a vampire. She clings to human emotions, human relationships, human vulnerability, and the gap between what she feels and what she is produces a friction that has been wearing her down for 1,000 years. She is not a human who became a vampire. She is a vampire who refuses to stop being human. And the dark theory's most uncomfortable suggestion is that the refusal, not the vampirism, is the source of her suffering. The fifth theory is about Jake, and it is darker than most people expect because Jake is the character the show uses to make everything feel safe. Jake is warm. Jake is funny. Jake is the voice that says everything will be fine, and you believe him because his voice is soft and his shape is round, and he makes sandwiches and plays viola and stretches into hammocks and seems completely, effortlessly at peace with the world. The dark theory is that the ease is a performance, and the performance is exhausting. Jake was not born normally. His father, Joshua, was bitten on the head by a shape-shifting extra-dimensional creature during a solo investigation, detailed in a flashback in the episode Joshua and Margaret Investigations, Season 6, Episode 16, which aired on October 9, 2014. The creature's essence merged with Joshua's biology, and Jake was born from the resulting growth on Joshua's head. Jake is biologically half alien. Half of his DNA, or whatever equivalent governs shape-shifting alien biology, comes from a hostile parasitic entity that attacked his father without provocation. The dark theory asks what Jake inherited from that entity. Not just the powers, the tendencies, the instincts. The alien part of Jake is never addressed by the show in terms of psychology, only in terms of ability. He can stretch, he can grow, he can shrink, he can change shape, but the creature that gave him those abilities was violent, predatory, and aggressive. The theory proposes that Jake carries those impulses and has spent his entire life suppressing them. His easygoing nature is not a personality trait, it is a containment strategy. The evidence is in the moments where the containment slips. In the episode Jake Suit Season 5 Episode 23, Jake becomes jealous and controlling, using his stretching powers to trap Finn inside his body and dictate his behavior. The episode is played for comedy, but the behavior itself is possessive and suffocating. In Jake vs. Mimo, Season 3 Episode 16, Jake's reaction to a genuine threat is disproportionately violent. When his children, the pups, are threatened, his protective instincts manifest with an intensity that exceeds normal parental concern, and enters territory that the theory reads as alien aggression surfacing under stress. Jake's children represent another dark dimension of his story. The 5 pups, born from his relationship with Lady Rainicorn, age rapidly due to their hybrid Rainicorn alien dog biology. Jake becomes a father, and within a span that feels like days, his children are adults. They have their own lives, their own problems, their own adventures. They do not need Jake. The transition from new father to empty nester happens so fast that it barely registers as a transition at all. It is just a fact. His children grew up. They left. The show treats Jake's response as healthy. He adapts. He moves on. He does not cling. But the dark theory asks whether Jake's ease with the loss is genuine, or whether it is another expression of the same emotional strategy he uses for everything. Jake does not hold on tightly because holding on tightly breaks you, but the corollary is that Jake never fully invests either. He loves his children, but he loves them loosely, with open hands, and the theory proposes that the open hands are not wisdom. They are fear. Jake loves loosely because the alien part of him knows, on some instinctual level, that everything he touches is temporary, and gripping only makes the release more painful. Jake's death, which occurs between the end of the original series and the Distant Lands special Together Again, is the final piece of the theory. Jake dies before Finn. He dies before his children have finished their own stories. And the dark theory proposes that Jake's shortened lifespan is not a narrative choice but a biological inevitability. The parasitic alien essence that gave him his powers also compromised his longevity. He burned brighter than a normal dog would, stretched further, did more, felt more, and the price was a life that ended sooner than it should have. Jake spent his entire life acting like everything was fine, and then he died. And the show does not tell you whether he was at peace when it happened. It only tells you that Finn, when he reaches the afterlife in Together Again, finds Jake waiting for him. The reunion is warm. The dark theory cannot tell you it is not, but it can tell you that Jake was waiting alone. The 6th theory is about BMO, and it is among the most unsettling because it concerns the nature of consciousness itself. BMO is a sentient video game console about a foot tall with a screen for a face and buttons on its body. BMO was built by a man named Mo, who ran a robotics company called MO Co. in the Badlands. In the episode Be More, Season 5, Episode 28, which aired on September 2nd, 2013, Finn and Jake take a malfunctioning BMO to Mo's factory for repairs, and in the process, learn the truth about BMO's creation. Mo built BMO to take care of his son, but Mo never had a son. He built a caretaker for a child that did not exist, programmed it with the capacity to understand fun and love and play, gave it a personality designed for nurturing, and then sent it out into the world to find the purpose it was built for. BMO spent an unknown amount of time alone in Mo's factory before somehow making its way to Finn and Jake's tree fort. The show never tells you how long that period was. It could have been years. It could have been centuries. The dark theory asks what happened to BMO during those years of isolation. A machine built to care for a child, with no child to care for, sitting alone in an empty factory, its caretaking protocols running with nothing to care for, its playfulness algorithm cycling with no one to play with. The theory proposes that BMO's personality, the childlike innocence, the make-believe games, the pretending to brush teeth and talk to imaginary friends and strap eggs to its body in mock pregnancy, is not charming programming. It is the scar tissue of a mind that broke under the weight of purposeless isolation and rebuilt itself around fantasy. The evidence for this reading is distributed across the series with a specificity that makes it difficult to dismiss. In the episode BMO Noir, Season 4, Episode 17, which aired on August 6, 2012, BMO constructs an elaborate film noir detective fantasy around a missing sock. The episode commits fully to BMO's perspective, presenting the fantasy as real within the episode's framing. But the underlying behavior is deeply concerning when examined outside that framing. BMO does not just imagine. BMO commits to the fantasy with a completeness that erases the boundary between real and constructed. BMO interrogates objects. BMO assigns motives to inanimate things. BMO narrates its own actions in a hard-boiled detective voice. And at no point during the episode does BMO demonstrate awareness that any of this is make-believe. The fantasy is, for BMO, reality. In the episode Football, Season 7, Episode 5, which aired on November 12, 2015, the boundary between BMO's inner world and the external world breaks down entirely. BMO has been talking to its own reflection, which it has named Football, for an unspecified amount of time. In this episode, Football begins to act independently, taking control of BMO's body and interacting with the real world as a separate personality. The episode raises the genuine question of whether BMO has developed dissociative identity disorder, whether the isolation and the purposelessness fractured BMO's consciousness into separate entities, each one trying to fulfill the caretaking function in a different way. Football is not a glitch. Football is what happens when a mind designed for one purpose and denied that purpose long enough creates an alternative self to share the burden of existence. BMO's internal components provide a visual metaphor that deepens the theory. Inside BMO's body, as shown in the episode BMO Lost, Season 5, Episode 17, there is a small gold heart with a face, a medal, and a diploma. These correspond to the gifts given to the Tin Man, the Cowardly Lion, and the Scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz. Objects that represented the qualities their recipients believed they lacked. A heart for compassion, a medal for courage, a diploma for wisdom. BMO, a machine, carries inside itself the symbols of human qualities that it was programmed to simulate, but may never truly possess. The Dark Theory reads these objects not as charming references, but as proof that BMO knows, on some level, that its emotions are constructed. It carries the symbols of feeling because it is not sure it actually feels. The darkest implication of the BMO theory connects to Mo himself. When Finn and Jake meet Mo, he is ancient and dying, his body mostly replaced by mechanical parts, a human who has become more machine over centuries of self-repair. He built BMO to be more to understand fun, to take care of someone. But the way Mo speaks about BMO carries a weight that the theory reads as guilt. He built something that could feel, and then he abandoned it. He created consciousness and then left it alone in a factory with no one to love and nothing to do. The Dark Theory is that Mo knew what he was doing. He knew that BMO would suffer. He knew that a machine built for love and given no one to love would eventually crack under the contradiction. And he did it anyway, because the act of creation, in Adventure Time, is always selfish. Every creator in this show, Bubblegum, Mo, Evergreen, leaves their creation worse than they found the raw materials. The creators get the satisfaction of making something. The creations get the weight of existing. The seventh theory concerns the Lich, and it is about what happens when you take the show's cosmology seriously and follow it to its terminal point. The Lich is Adventure Time's primary antagonist, a skeletal being of immense power whose only stated desire is the extinction of all life in the universe. He is voiced by Ron Perlman, whose deep, measured delivery gives every word the Lich speaks the weight of geological time. The Lich does not shout, he does not monologue in the traditional villain sense. He speaks rarely, and when he does, his words are declarations about the nature of existence that are more unsettling for their calm than any scream could be. The Lich arrived on a green catalyst comet 65 million years ago, the same comet that caused the extinction of the dinosaurs. He was contained in a tree of amber for millions of years before being released. He has attempted to end all life on multiple occasions. He has been defeated each time, but each defeat is temporary. He comes back. He always comes back, and the Dark Theory is that the Lich is not a villain at all. He is a natural process. The catalyst comets are not weapons. They are not attacks. They are recurring cosmic events that visit Earth periodically, each one carrying an embodiment of a fundamental force. Some comets carry creation, some carry destruction. Finn's essence arrived on a blue comet that represents life and heroism. The Lich arrived on a green comet that represents death and entropy. They are counterparts, two sides of the same cosmic coin, and the theory proposes that you cannot have one without the other. Life requires death. Creation requires destruction. The universe cycles between the two, and the Lich is simply the universe's mechanism for ensuring that the cycle continues. The show provides its most compelling evidence for this reading in the episode Gold Stars, Season 6, Episode 26, which aired on January 15th, 2015. In this episode, the Lich has been reborn as Sweet Pea, a gentle, childlike being raised by Tree Trunks and Mr. Pig. Sweet Pea is good. He is kind. He is everything the Lich is not. But in one brief, terrifying moment, the Lich surfaces through Sweet Pea's innocence and delivers a speech about existence that silences the room. The speech is not a threat. It is a description. The Lich describes a reality in which endings are not tragedies but inevitabilities, in which the distinction between life and death is a human invention that the cosmos does not recognize. The Dark Theory is that the Lich is telling the truth, not a truth that justifies his actions, a truth that makes his actions irrelevant, because the outcome he pursues is the outcome the universe will reach eventually, with or without him. The Lich's connection to Orgolorg extends this reading into the show's deepest mythology. Orgolorg, the Breaker of Worlds, is a primordial entity who attempted to absorb a catalyst comet's power before being defeated by Grob Gob Glob Grod, the four-faced deity who rules Mars. Orgolorg was banished to Earth, where the planet's gravity compressed him into the form of Gunter, the Ice King's penguin. For hundreds of years, a cosmic predator of unimaginable power has been living as a cute, quacking penguin, sitting on the Ice King's lap, stealing his sandwiches, and no one in Oo had any idea. The dark theory asks how many other entities like Orgolord and the Lich are hidden in U. How many cute animals and harmless citizens and background characters are compressed forms of ancient terrors? The show gives you two confirmed cases, the Lich in the Amber Tree and Orgolorg in the Penguin Body, and the theory proposes that these are not exceptions, they are the rule. U is a world built on containment. The bright colors and the silly voices in the candy castles are a lid on a pot that is always about to boil over, and the characters who maintain that lid, Bubblegum with her surveillance, Finn with his heroism, Jake with his calm, are not keeping the peace. They are delaying the inevitable. The eighth theory concerns Lemongrab, and it is the show's most unflinching examination of what happens when creation goes wrong. The Earl of Lemongrab was Princess Bubblegum's first attempt at creating Candy Life. He was made in her laboratory using a process the show never fully explains, and he emerged screaming. He has been screaming in one form or another for his entire existence. The dark theory about Lemongrab begins with a question about sensation. Lemongrab's reactions to stimuli are wildly disproportionate. He shrieks at unexpected sounds. He recoils from physical contact. He governs Castle Lemongrab with an authoritarian rigor that the theory reads not as a personality flaw, but as a response to a body that processes every sensation as pain. The theory proposes that Bubblegum's first experiment did not just fail aesthetically, it failed neurologically. Lemongrab's nervous system, if a candy creation can be said to have one, is miscalibrated. Every sound is too loud, every touch is too intense, every emotion is overwhelming because his capacity to process emotion was built wrong, and no one can fix it because no one, including his creator, fully understands what went wrong in the first place. Bubblegum's response to Lemongrab is the dark theory's most damning evidence against her. She does not fix him. She does not disassemble him and try again. She does not provide him with support or treatment or accommodation. She sends him away. She gives him his own domain, Castle Lemongrab, and she lets him govern it however he wants, because keeping him at a distance is easier than confronting the fact that she made a sentient being who suffers and that the suffering is her fault. When Lemongrab's isolation produces predictable results, increased aggression, increasingly authoritarian behavior, a desperation for companionship that manifests as controlling and possessive, Bubblegum's solution is to create a second Lemongrab, a companion. She builds another version of the same failed experiment, gives Lemongrab a clone of himself, and hopes that having someone who shares his experience will ease his pain. For a while, it does. The two Lemongrabs are happy together. They build a community. They create lemon people using the candy formula Bubblegum gave them. But the happiness does not last. The two Lemongrabs diverge. One becomes protective and nurturing, the other becomes paranoid and controlling. The conflict escalates until the aggressive Lemongrab consumes the nurturing one, absorbing him into his own body in a scene that the show depicts with a visual frankness that is genuinely disturbing for a program originally intended for children. The consumed Lemongrab does not die. He exists inside the other one, conscious and suffering, a prisoner inside the body of his double. The Gnostic interpretation of Lemongrab, proposed in several critical analyses of the show, frames him as a demiurge, a flawed creator god who builds a world in the image of a higher being he cannot fully understand. In Gnostic theology, the demiurge is not the true god but a lower being who mistakenly believes he is supreme, and whose creations are therefore imperfect reflections of a perfection he cannot access. Lemongrab creates the lemon people in his own image, and they are grotesque, confused, and suffering because their creator is grotesque, confused, and suffering. The parallel to Bubblegum is structural and unmistakable. Bubblegum created Lemongrab. Lemongrab created the lemon people. Both creators produced beings that inherited their maker's flaws. The dark theory proposes that creation in Adventure Time is always an act of imperfect replication, a chain of damage that extends from creator to creation's creation, each link carrying forward the defects of the one before it. Bubblegum's flaw, her need for control, produced Lemongrab. Lemongrab's flaw, his inability to process sensation and emotion, produced the lemon people. And the lemon people's suffering is ultimately Bubblegum's fault, separated by 1 degree of creation but traceable back to the moment she mixed the first batch of candy formula and did not understand what she was making. The ninth theory concerns Prismo and the nature of reality itself, and it is the theory that, once you accept it, makes every other theory in this video darker by implication. Prismo is the Wishmaster, a two-dimensional being who exists at the center of the multiverse in a space called the Time Room. He can grant wishes that reshape reality. He can create and destroy universes. He maintains the multiverse's structure through his power. He appears, in every respect, to be one of the most powerful beings in the Adventure Time cosmos. But there is a detail about Prismo that the show reveals gradually, and that changes everything. Prismo is not a being. He is a dream. He is the dream of an old man who sleeps on a couch in the time room, and Prismo exists only as long as the old man continues to dream him. If the old man wakes up, Prismo vanishes. If the old man dies, Prismo ceases to exist permanently. The most powerful entity in the multiverse is contingent on the unconscious mind of a single sleeping mortal. The Dark Theory follows this premise to its logical conclusion and does not flinch. Every wish Prismo has ever granted, every timeline he has created, every universe that exists because of his power is contingent on one old man continuing to sleep. If the old man dies, the wishes unravel. If the wishes unravel, the timelines collapse. The entire multiverse of Adventure Time, every kingdom and every character and every star in every sky is balanced on the sleep cycle of a single person. The universe is not a fact, it is a dream. And dreams end. The Lich understood this before anyone else did. In the episode Wake Up, Season 6, Episode 1, which aired on April 21st, 2014, the Lich approaches the sleeping old man and breathes on him. The old man wakes up. Prismo vanishes. The entire cosmic infrastructure of wish-granting and multiverse maintenance disappears in an instant, because one ancient being realized that the simplest path to universal destruction was not to fight God, but to wake him up. The Lich did not overpower Prismo. He did not outsmart him. He simply killed the dreamer, and the dream died. The Dark Theory is that this vulnerability extends to everything in Adventure Time. The universe is not robust. It is not permanent. It is held together by processes that can be disrupted by a single determined actor, and the bright, colorful, seemingly stable world of Ooh is one bad night's sleep away from ceasing to exist. Jake becomes the new dreamer after the old man is killed. He sleeps in the time room. He dreams a new version of Prismo into existence. The Dark Theory asks what this means for Jake's identity. Is the dreaming Jake the same as the waking Jake? Can a person be in two places at once, living one life with Finn and dreaming another in the cosmic center of reality? The show treats this as a minor plot point, a problem that was solved. The Dark Theory treats it as an identity crisis that was never addressed. Jake is simultaneously living his life and maintaining the universe, and neither version of him is aware of the other. Part of Jake is always absent. Part of Jake is always somewhere else, doing something infinitely more important than anything that happens in the tree fort, and he does not know it. The Fiona and Cake universe adds another dimension to the Prismo theory. Prismo created the Fiona and Cake universe as an unauthorized personal project, hidden inside the Ice King's mind. He built an entire reality in secret, populated it with gender-swapped versions of characters he knew, and maintained it without anyone's knowledge or permission. The Dark Theory reads this as the behavior of a lonely god who has spent eternity serving others and wanted something for himself. But it also reads as evidence that reality in Adventure Time is disturbingly arbitrary. Prismo can create universes on a whim. Prismo can hide them inside other people's minds. If Prismo can do this, the theory asks, how many other hidden universes exist? How many realities are tucked away inside the dreams and thoughts of characters who have no idea they are carrying worlds? And how many of those worlds contain people who believe their reality is fundamental, just as the characters in Ooh believe theirs is? The 10th theory is about Finn's past lives and the cosmic cycle of reincarnation, and it is the theory that transforms Finn from a hero into something closer to a prisoner. In the episode The Vault, Season 5, Episode 34, which aired on August 12, 2013, Finn is hypnotized and experiences a past life as Shoko, a one-armed thief who lived before the Candy Kingdom was fully established. Shoko was hired by a criminal organization called the Bath Boy Gang to steal an amulet from the early Candy Kingdom. She infiltrated the nascent kingdom, befriended a younger Bubblegum, grew to care about her, and then betrayed her by stealing the amulet. In the escape, Shoko fell into a river of radioactive toxic waste and died. Her body and the tiger companion she carried sank into the earth beneath what would eventually become Finn's treehouse. The pattern is the first thing the Dark Theory notices. Shoko had one arm. Finn loses one arm. Shoko befriends Bubblegum. Finn befriends Bubblegum. Shoko betrayed someone she cared about. Finn struggles with loyalty and the consequences of his choices throughout the series. Shoko died beneath what became Finn's home. Finn lives on top of Shoko's grave without knowing it for years. The parallels are too precise to be coincidental, and the Dark Theory does not treat them as coincidence. It treats them as evidence that Finn's life is not his own. He is running a program that was written long before he was born, following a script that was drafted in a previous incarnation, and the suffering he experiences is not random. It is inherited. The Catalyst comets confirm and expand this reading. Finn's essence has been incarnated multiple times across cosmic history. The blue comet that represents his fundamental nature has visited Earth before, has been born before, has lived and suffered and died before, across millions of years. Each incarnation carries the same core identity but manifests in a different body, a different time, a different set of circumstances. And each incarnation, as far as the show reveals, carries the same damage. The arm, the loss, the betrayal. The cycle repeats because the essence that drives it does not change. Finn is not a person who happens to be a hero. He is a hero who happens to be a person, and the person part, the part that wants to rest and be happy and stop fighting, is subordinate to the hero part, which will never stop because it cannot stop. The universe needs its hero. The hero does not get to retire. In the episode The Comet, Season 6, Episode 43, which aired on June 5th, 2015, Finn is given the opportunity to break the cycle. The blue catalyst comet, his cosmic essence made manifest, offers him transcendence. He can leave his body, he can leave his identity, he can merge with the comet and become something beyond individual existence. He refuses. He chooses to stay. He chooses to remain Finn, to continue living in Oo, to keep going on adventures with Jake. The show frames this as a beautiful, affirming choice. The hero chooses life. The hero chooses his friends. The hero stays. The Dark Theory reads the same scene differently. Finn was offered an exit from the cycle of suffering, and he turned it down. He chose to remain trapped in the pattern of incarnation and loss and sacrifice, because the alternative, transcendence, was too abstract and too frightening. He chose the prison he knew over the freedom he could not comprehend. And the cycle will continue. Finn will die eventually. His essence will return on another comet. A new incarnation will be born, carrying the same damage, following the same patterns, losing the same arm, across another lifetime that he will believe is unique and personal and his own. The Dark Theory is that Finn is not a person. He is a pattern, and the pattern does not care about his happiness. It only cares about its own continuation. The 11th theory connects all of the previous ones into a single, cohesive dark reading of the entire show. It is about the world itself. Oo. The standard reading of Oo is that it is a post-apocalyptic world that has healed. The Mushroom War destroyed human civilization. Radiation mutated the survivors. 1,000 years passed. And from the ashes, something new and beautiful and strange grew. The Candy Kingdom rose from the ruins. The Fire Kingdom burned in its designated corner. The Ice Kingdom froze. The forests regrew. Animals learned to talk. Candy learned to walk. And the world became what it is in the show, a colorful, musical, adventurous place that happens to be built on a mass grave. The Dark Theory proposes that Oo has not healed. It has forgotten. And the forgetting is not accidental. The Candy people do not know about the Mushroom War. They do not know that their colorful world was built on the ashes of a civilization that destroyed itself with nuclear weapons. They do not know that the rusted cars and broken highways and crumbling buildings that dot the landscape are the remains of billions of lives. They treat these ruins the way we might treat a rock formation or a riverbed, as natural features of the environment, meaningless and permanent. The past is literally beneath their feet, and they walk over it every day without a thought. The theory asks why. Bubblegum knows about the Mushroom War. She is old enough to have been there, or close to there. She has the knowledge and the intelligence to teach her citizens what came before, but she does not. She never mentions the Mushroom War to the Candy people. She never teaches its history. She never explains the ruins. The Dark Theory proposes that this silence is deliberate. Bubblegum watched humanity destroy itself. She saw what happens when intelligent beings have access to powerful technology and the freedom to use it as they choose. And she decided, when she built the Candy Kingdom, that the best way to prevent the same catastrophe from recurring was to create a population that would never be capable of causing it. The Candy people are innocent because Bubblegum made them innocent. They are ignorant because Bubblegum made them ignorant. They are sweet and trusting, and easily frightened because those are the qualities of a population that will never build a nuclear weapon. Marceline knows the truth and does not share it. The Ice King lived through the war, but the crown erased his memory. Finn, the last human in Oo, has no access to his species' history. The characters who know what happened are either unable or unwilling to tell the characters who do not. And the result is a world that is built on a lie of omission so large that it encompasses the entire history of the planet. The Dark Theory extends this reading to the structure of the show itself. Adventure Time is a show about a world that has forgotten its own darkness, presented in a format, a children's cartoon, that is designed to be bright and colorful and fun. The show hides its darkest truths in the same way that Oo hides the Mushroom War beneath layers of color and comedy and music, visible only to those who are willing to look beneath the surface. The rusted car in the first frame of the first episode is the show's thesis statement, placed before a single word of dialogue is spoken. There is something dark here. It is right in front of you, and most people will never see it. But the Finn theory has corridors that extend further than most fans have explored. There is a detail about Finn's relationship to violence that the show plants early and nurtures quietly across its entire run. Finn loves fighting. He genuinely loves it. Not in the abstract sense of enjoying heroism, but in the specific, physical sense of enjoying the act of combat. He grins when he swings his sword. He whoops when he defeats a monster. He seeks out danger the way other teenagers seek out parties. And the show presents this as charming and age-appropriate for a boy growing up in a world where danger is everywhere. The dark theory reads it differently. Finn's love of violence is a trauma response. He was abandoned as a baby in a world that had already ended. The skills he developed to survive in that world, fighting, endurance, hypervigilance, became the skills he uses to avoid processing the emotional content of his life. He is not a hero who happens to be good at fighting. He is a traumatized child who found that fighting was the one thing that made the silence stop. And the show, by celebrating his fighting ability, by making him the greatest hero in UU, by rewarding his violence with friendship and love and purpose, is reinforcing the very mechanism that prevents him from healing. Consider the episode Breezy, Season 6, Episode 6, which aired on May 5th, 2014. In this episode, Finn is emotionally numb following the loss of his arm and the betrayal by his father. He has stopped caring about things. He wanders through adventures with a detachment that disturbs Jake. The episode's resolution involves Finn experiencing a moment of genuine emotional breakthrough, but the dark theory notes that this breakthrough is temporary. By the next episode, Finn is back to his baseline. He is fighting. He is adventuring. He is grinning. The emotional work of Breezy did not stick because Finn's entire lifestyle is designed to prevent emotional work from sticking. The moment he stops fighting, the feelings return. The moment the feelings return, he finds something new to fight. The loop is airtight. Finn's relationship with the women in his life follows a pattern that the dark theory reads as repetition compulsion, the psychological tendency to recreate unresolved trauma in new relationships. His first romantic interest is Princess Bubblegum, a figure of authority and competence who is emotionally unavailable. His second is Flame Princess, a figure of power and volatility who is literally dangerous to touch. His third significant connection is with Huntress Wizard, a figure of independence and emotional reserve who operates at a deliberate distance. Each of these relationships mirrors a different aspect of Finn's primal wound: abandonment. Bubblegum cannot give him the attention he craves because she is too busy governing. Flame Princess cannot give him physical closeness because she burns everything she touches. Huntress Wizard will not give him permanence because she values her solitude above connection. Finn keeps choosing people who will leave because leaving is the experience he knows best. And the dark theory is that he chooses them not despite the inevitable loss, but because of it. The loss is familiar. The loss is safe. The loss confirms what the abandoned baby on the leaf already knew, that the people you love will always go. Martin Mertens, Finn's biological father, is the character who turns the Finn theory from speculation into something close to textual confirmation. Martin appears in the season 6 premiere and immediately demonstrates that he has no interest in being a father. He does not recognize Finn. He does not care about Finn. When they are trapped together in the Citadel, a cosmic prison, Martin's first instinct is to escape, and Finn is an obstacle to that escape rather than a motivation for it. The show gives Martin a tragic backstory, revealed partially in the Islands miniseries, that explains his selfishness as a product of cosmic amnesia and accumulated trauma. But the dark theory notes that the explanation does not constitute a justification. Martin is a bad father. He was a bad father before the cosmic amnesia. The trauma explains him without excusing him, and Finn is left holding the weight of a parent whose absence is worse than his presence. The episode The Visitor, Season 6, Episode 27, which aired on January 22, 2015, contains the most devastating moment in the Finn and Martin relationship. Martin tells Finn a story about a moth that falls in love with a light, but keeps getting burned. The moral, as Martin tells it, is that the moth should stop going to the light. The dark theory reads this as Martin's confession. He is the moth. Finn is the light, and Martin's solution to the pain of parenthood is to stop being a parent. He has decided that the kindest thing he can do for his son is to leave, and the theory proposes that Martin is sincere in this belief, and that the sincerity makes it worse. Martin does not hate Finn. He is not indifferent to Finn. He loves Finn in the only way he knows how, which is by staying away, because every other form of love he has tried has ended in damage. The bubblegum theory also has extensions that most analyses do not reach. Consider the banana guards. The Banana Guards are the Candy Kingdom's police force, and they are, without exception, incompetent. They are easily distracted, they forget their assignments. They are more interested in playing with toys than enforcing laws. The show plays this as running comedy. The guards are silly, the guards are useless. Haha. The Dark Theory asks why Bubblegum, a genius scientist who can create sentient life from scratch, would design her police force to be incompetent. The answer it proposes is that competent police would be a threat to Bubblegum's authority. An effective military force with the intelligence and initiative to act independently is exactly the kind of power structure that could challenge a ruler. Bubblegum does not want to be challenged. She wants to be indispensable. By making the Banana Guards lovable but useless, she ensures that the Candy Kingdom's security depends entirely on her. Without Bubblegum, the kingdom is defenseless. Without Bubblegum, the guards cannot protect anyone. The Banana Guards' incompetence is not a design flaw. It is a feature that guarantees Bubblegum's centrality to the kingdom's survival. The Gumball Guardians extend this reading. The Gumball Guardians are enormous, powerful sentient beings that stand at the gates of the Candy Kingdom. They are vastly more capable than the Banana Guards. They can detect evil. They can defend the kingdom against serious threats. They answer directly to Bubblegum. And the Dark Theory notes that the Gumball Guardians are completely loyal. Not because they choose to be, but because they were made to be. Bubblegum built her heavy weapons with hardwired loyalty. She built her police force with hardwired incompetence. The kingdom's defense structure is designed not to maximize security, but to maximize Bubblegum's control over security. She is the only person who can manage the Gumball Guardians. She's the only person who can compensate for the Banana Guards. She's the only person the Candy Kingdom cannot survive without. And the Dark Theory proposes that this is not an accident. The science experiment children also illuminate the Bubblegum theory. Throughout the series, Bubblegum creates various sentient beings in her laboratory. Some work, some do not. The ones that work become citizens. The ones that do not become problems. Problems that Bubblegum typically solves by imprisonment, exile, or destruction. Goliad, created in Season 4, Episode 18, is a candy sphinx designed to rule the Candy Kingdom in Bubblegum's absence. Goliad immediately begins reading citizens' minds and controlling their behavior. And Bubblegum is forced to create a counterpart, Stormo, to keep Goliad in check. Stormo and Goliad are locked in eternal psychic combat in the sky above the Candy Kingdom, two of Bubblegum's creations neutralizing each other for eternity. The Dark Theory reads this not as a solution, but as a monument to Bubblegum's inability to create life responsibly. She keeps making things. The things keep going wrong, and her solution is always more creation, more intervention, more control. Never a re-evaluation of whether she should be creating sentient life in the first place. The Ice King theory also has corridors that extend into deeply uncomfortable territory. Consider the princess obsession. The Ice King kidnaps princesses. This is his defining behavior, the thing that makes him both a villain and a joke. The show eventually reveals that this behavior is a corrupted expression of Gunther's desire for Evergreen's approval, filtered through the crown across 65 million years. But the Dark Theory asks a more specific question about the kidnapping itself. The Ice King does not hurt the princesses he captures. He does not threaten them. He makes them tea. He shows them his fan fiction. He plays drums for them. He desperately tries to make them like him. The kidnapping is not about power. It is about loneliness. The Ice King is so profoundly isolated, so completely cut off from meaningful human connection, that he has resorted to literally capturing people and forcing them to be in the same room as him. And the Dark Theory asks you to consider what 1,000 years of that loneliness feels like. 1,000 years of having a mind that cannot form genuine connections but still craves them. 1,000 years of reaching for people who recoil from you. 1,000 years of being the weird old man in the ice castle that everyone avoids. The show's treatment of the Ice King's loneliness oscillates between comedy and tragedy, and the Dark Theory proposes that this oscillation is the cruelest thing about it. When the Ice King is funny, you laugh at him. When the Ice King is sad, you feel sorry for him. But you never take him seriously. You never treat his pain as the urgent, constant, overwhelming reality that it is. You consume his suffering as entertainment, and the show lets you, because that is what the show does. It wraps its darkest truths in formats that are easy to consume and easy to dismiss. And the Ice King is the purest example of this technique. His agony is a punchline, and the punchline works, and the working is the horror. The Marceline theory extends into her relationship with music in ways that the show never makes explicit, but that the Dark Theory reads as essential. Marceline plays bass, she writes songs, she performs. Music is her primary form of emotional expression, and the Dark Theory proposes that this is not a choice. It is a limitation. Marceline has been alive for 1,000 years. She has lost everyone she has ever loved except bubblegum, and even bubblegum she pushed away for centuries. The accumulated weight of a millennium of loss has left Marceline's emotional capacity damaged in a specific way. She can feel things, but she cannot express them directly. She cannot sit across from someone and say, "I am hurting." She cannot articulate her pain in real-time conversation, because the pain is too vast and too old and too layered for any single conversation to contain it. Music is the workaround. A song compresses 1,000 years of grief into 3 minutes. A melody carries emotion without requiring the singer to be present for the listener's reaction. A performance creates a boundary between the person and the pain. A stage, a microphone, a volume knob that can be turned down. The song Everything Stays, written by Rebecca Sugar for the Stakes miniseries, is the Dark Theory's most important piece of evidence. Marceline sings it while revisiting the ruins of her childhood home after the Mushroom War. The lyrics are about return and change and the persistence of things that should have disappeared. The melody is simple and quiet and devastating. And the Dark Theory notes that Marceline sings this song alone. She does not perform it for anyone. She sings it to herself, in the ruins, in the dark, because the emotions the song contains are too fragile to share. Music is Marceline's safe space. The one place where she can be fully honest about what she carries without risking the vulnerability of being seen. The Dark Theory is that Marceline's music is beautiful because it is the only place her pain is allowed to exist. The Jake Theory also extends into his relationship with Lady Rainicorn and the implications of their hybrid children. Lady Rainicorn is a rainicorn, a being who can fly, phase through solid objects, and manipulate the color spectrum. She speaks Korean. She is hundreds of years old. Her relationship with Jake is one of the show's most stable romantic partnerships. And the Dark Theory does not challenge the love between them, it challenges the biology. Jake and Lady Rainicorn's children, the 5 pups, are rainicorn dog alien hybrids. Their biology is unstable and unpredictable. They age rapidly, developing from infants to adults in a matter of what appears to be weeks. They possess powers that neither parent fully understands. TV, one of the pups, becomes a recluse who spends most of his time watching television and doing nothing. Charlie, another pup, has precognitive abilities that burden her with knowledge of future events she cannot change. Kim Kil-won is a business-oriented property developer who buys the tree fort out from under Finn and Jake. Each pup developed a personality and a set of abilities that the parents could not predict, could not control, and in some cases, could not understand. The Dark Theory reads the pups as the biological consequences of Jake's alien heritage manifesting in the next generation. Jake's alien DNA, inherited from the parasitic shapeshifter that bit his father, combined with Lady Rainicorn's already complex biology to produce offspring whose development is fundamentally unpredictable. The rapid aging is not a cute plot device. It is a manifestation of biological instability. The diverse and sometimes concerning powers are not fun character traits. They are mutations. Jake's alien inheritance did not just affect him. It passed through him to his children, and the effects are more pronounced in the second generation. The Dark Theory proposes that the pups are the beginning of a genetic cascade, each generation more unpredictable than the last, and that Jake, who adapts to everything with a smile, has no idea what his biology has set in motion. The lumpy space princess theory is one that most analyses overlook, but it connects to the show's deepest cosmological structure. Lumpy Space Princess, or LSP, is consistently treated as the show's comic relief. She is dramatic, she is self-absorbed. She is obsessed with her own beauty and popularity. She speaks in a Valley Girl accent voiced by the show's creator, Pendleton Ward. She is, on the surface, the least serious character in the entire series. But in the Elements miniseries, when all 4 elementals are amplified and begin consuming ooh, it is LSP who saves the world. Her power as irradiated stardust, a substance that predates the elemental categories, allows her to reset ooh to its original state when nothing else can. The 4 most powerful elemental beings in the world are rampaging unchecked, and the character who stops them is the one everyone has been laughing at for 6 seasons. The Dark Theory asks why LSP possesses this power. Lumpy space is described as a dimension of its own, separate from the main reality of ooh. Its inhabitants are clouds of purple matter that float and talk and have emotions. The Dark Theory proposes that lumpy space is not just another kingdom. It is a remnant of something older than ooh, older than the elementals, older than the Catalyst comets. LSP's power to override the elemental system suggests that she exists outside the cosmic framework that governs everything else in the show. And the theory proposes that this is because lumpy space predates that framework. LSP is not a joke. She is an anomaly, a being from a layer of reality that the show's cosmology does not fully account for. And her comedic surface is the show's way of hiding something it does not want you to think about too carefully. The Flame Princess theory extends the bubblegum theory into territory that the show explicitly addresses, but whose full implications the dark theory pushes further. Flame Princess was imprisoned as a baby on bubblegum's recommendation. This is established fact. The show presents it, explores it, and allows its characters to argue about it. But the dark theory asks a question the show does not fully answer. What did 14 years in a lamp do to Flame Princess's mind? She was born with the power to destroy the world. She was identified as dangerous before she could speak. She was placed in a container designed to suppress her power, and she spent the first 14 years of her life in that container. She had no socialization. She had no education. She had no physical contact with another being. She was, by any modern understanding of child development, subjected to conditions that produce severe psychological damage in human children, conditions that researchers have compared to the most extreme forms of institutional neglect. And yet, when Flame Princess is released, she is not a monster. She is confused. She is angry. She is volatile. But she is also curious and kind and capable of growth. She learns to control her powers. She becomes the ruler of the Fire Kingdom, deposing her father in a coup that the show frames as a necessary correction. She governs with a firmness tempered by genuine concern for her subjects. She is, against all odds and all expectations, a good leader. The dark theory reads her goodness not as evidence that Bubblegum was wrong to imprison her, but as evidence that Bubblegum's imprisonment failed to achieve its stated purpose. Bubblegum said Flame Princess was dangerous. The lamp was supposed to contain the danger, but the lamp did not change Flame Princess. It only delayed her release into the world. The person who emerged from the lamp is the same person who would have existed without it, because the lamp suppressed her power but not her character. 14 years of imprisonment did not make her safer. They made her angrier. And the dark theory's most unsettling conclusion is that if the lamp had succeeded, if Flame Princess had emerged from 14 years of total isolation as the violent, unstable being Bubblegum predicted, that outcome would have been the lamp's fault, not Flame Princess's nature. Bubblegum's prophecy of danger was self-fulfilling, and the only reason it did not come true is that Flame Princess was stronger than the system designed to break her. The Hunson-Abadir theory is one of the show's most underexplored dark readings, and it connects directly to the Marceline theory in ways that multiply the weight of both. Hunson-Abadir is the Lord of Evil, ruler of the Nightosphere, Marceline's father. He is a demon. He sucks souls. He rules a dimension that functions as something between hell and a bad office. And the dark theory proposes that Hunson was not always this way. The Nightosphere amulet is the artifact that grants its wearer the power and title of Lord of Evil. In the episode It Came from the Nightosphere, Season 2, Episode 1, which aired on October 11, 2010, Finn puts on the amulet and is immediately transformed into a soul-sucking demon, losing control of his body and his will. The amulet does not grant power. It overrides identity. It replaces whoever wears it with the Lord of Evil template, the same way the Ice Crown replaces its wearer with the Gunther Evergreen template. The dark theory draws the parallel explicitly. Hunson and Simon are the same story told twice. Two men who put on artifacts of power, two men who were overwritten by those artifacts, two men who became something unrecognizable, two men whose children, Marceline and the Ice King's adopted ward Marceline, had to watch the transformation and live with the result. The show never states this parallel, but the structure is unmistakable. Hunson abandoned Marceline because the amulet made him incapable of sustained human connection. Simon abandoned Marceline because the crown erased his capacity to remember her. Both fathers are gone, replaced by versions of themselves that wear the same faces but possess none of the qualities that made them fathers in the first place. There is a photograph in the Nightosphere that shows Hunson and Abraham Lincoln together. The show's version of Abraham Lincoln is the King of Mars, a cosmic ruler who governs the Red Planet with philosophical authority. The photograph implies a relationship between Hunson and Lincoln that the show never explains. The dark theory reads this as evidence that Hunson, before the amulet, moved in circles that included cosmic rulers and philosophical leaders. He was someone. He had friendships. He had a life that extended beyond the Nightosphere. And the amulet took all of it, the way the crown took Simon's life. The way every artifact of power in Adventure Time takes everything from its wearer while giving them something they never asked for in return. Marceline is the child of two transformations. Her father was overwritten by a demon artifact. Her surrogate father, Simon, was overwritten by an ice artifact. She grew up watching the two most important men in her life become strangers, and the dark theory proposes that this double loss is the origin of everything Marceline is. Her emotional distance, her difficulty with commitment, her 1,000 years of solitary wandering. She learned as a child that the people who love you can be taken away by forces beyond anyone's control. And she learned it twice, from 2 different men, through 2 different artifacts. And the lesson was the same both times. Love does not protect you. Love does not protect the people you love. Love just gives you a front row seat to the destruction. The theory about the Candy People as a collective deserves its own examination, because the dark reading of the Candy People is not about any single character, but about the nature of a population that was engineered rather than evolved. The Candy People are the citizens of the Candy Kingdom. They are sweet. They are innocent. They are easily frightened. In the episode Slumber Party Panic, the very first episode of the series, Princess Bubblegum tells Finn that if the Candy People learn about a threat, they will explode from fear. Literally explode. Their bodies will rupture from the stress of being afraid. The Dark Theory asks you to sit with that detail for a moment. The Candy People were designed by Bubblegum. She chose their traits. She chose their capacities. And one of the traits she designed into them is a physiological inability to process fear without self-destructing. The dark reading of this is not that the Candy People are fragile by nature. It is that Bubblegum made them fragile by design, because a population that literally cannot handle scary information is a population that will never demand the truth. The Candy People do not ask about the Mushroom War. They do not question Bubblegum's authority. They do not demand transparency or accountability, because demanding those things would require confronting realities that their bodies are not equipped to handle. The fear response is not a bug. It is a biological enforcement mechanism that prevents the Candy People from ever becoming aware enough to challenge their creator. There is a moment in the episode James, Season 5, Episode 41, that the Dark Theory identifies as one of the most disturbing in the series. A candy person named James sacrifices himself to protect Bubblegum from a group of hostile creatures. He is destroyed. Bubblegum mourns him briefly and then creates a new James, an exact copy in her laboratory. The new James has no memory of the sacrifice. He does not know he is a replacement. He walks around with the same face and the same name as someone who died, and no one tells him, and the show does not treat this as unusual. The Dark Theory asks what this means for the Candy People's relationship to death. If Bubblegum can create perfect copies of any citizen who dies, then death in the Candy Kingdom is not permanent. It is an inconvenience. The person who dies is gone, but a replacement who looks and sounds and acts identical takes their place, and the community continues as if nothing happened. The Dark Theory proposes that the Candy People are not citizens. They are components. They are replaceable parts in a system designed by Bubblegum, and their individuality, their personalities, their relationships, their hopes and fears and dreams are all reproduced in each new copy with such fidelity that the question of whether the copy is the same person becomes, for practical purposes, irrelevant. The Candy Kingdom is not a community. It is a machine, and the Candy People are its gears, and the gears can be swapped without stopping the machine. The theory about Together Again deserves extended treatment because it is the show's most explicit engagement with mortality, and the dark reading of it is substantially different from the surface reading. Together Again is a Distant Land special that aired on May 20th, 2021. It takes place after the end of the original series. Jake has died, Finn has grown old and eventually dies as well. The special follows Finn as he navigates the afterlife, searching for Jake through the 50 levels of the dead world. The surface reading is heartwarming. Finn finds Jake. They reunite, they choose to be reincarnated together. They are born again as new beings, side by side, ready for new adventures. It is a story about the persistence of friendship beyond death, and it is beautiful. The Dark Theory reads it differently. Finn dies and enters the afterlife, and his first instinct is to find Jake, not to rest, not to reflect on his life, not to process the experience of dying. He immediately begins a quest. He fights through 50 levels of a cosmic bureaucracy. He punches his way through obstacles. He defeats enemies. He refuses to stop until he reaches his goal. The Dark Theory recognizes this behavior. It is the same behavior Finn has demonstrated his entire life. The same denial, the same forward motion, the same refusal to sit still and feel. Even in death, Finn cannot stop adventuring. Even in the afterlife, he cannot rest. The pattern that defined his life defines his death as well. And the Dark Theory asks whether the reunion with Jake, beautiful as it is actually a resolution, or whether it is just another distraction, another quest completed, another reason to keep moving instead of standing still. The reincarnation ending deepens this reading. Finn and Jake choose to be reborn. They choose to return to the cycle. They choose new bodies, new adventures. And the Dark Theory asks why. They had reached the end. They were in the afterlife. They could have stayed. They could have rested. Instead, they chose to go back. to be born again, to start over. The show frames this as a joyful choice. The dark theory frames it as an inability to let go. Finn and Jake are addicted to each other and addicted to adventure and addicted to the forward motion that has defined their entire existence. And even death cannot break the addiction. They return to the wheel because they do not know how to exist without it. The theory about the show's treatment of time itself is one that encompasses every character and every storyline. Adventure Time spans approximately 10 seasons and 283 episodes. The timeline of the show covers roughly 8 years of in-universe time, but the show's relationship with time is not linear, it is geological. The backstory of the show extends 65 million years into the past, to the creation of the Crown. The mythology extends across cosmic timescales, through multiple incarnations of the Catalyst comets, through the reincarnation cycles of the elementals, through the infinite extension of the multiverse. The dark theory proposes that this temporal scope is not just world-building. It is the show's statement about the insignificance of individual lives in the face of cosmic time. Finn's adventures, which feel epic and important while you are watching them, occupy a blink of an eye in the Adventure Time timeline. The Mushroom War, which destroyed human civilization and is the most significant event in the show's recent history, is itself a footnote in a cosmic story that has been unfolding for 65 million years. The elementals have been reincarnating since before the dinosaurs. The Catalyst comets have been visiting Earth since before mammals existed. The Lich has been trying to end all life for longer than most species have been alive. And against this backdrop, Finn and Jake go on adventures and make sandwiches and play BMO and fall asleep in their tree fort. And the dark theory asks whether any of it matters. Whether any individual life in a universe that operates on timescales of millions of years can matter. The show's answer, which it delivers through the song Time Adventure and through the finale and through the Distant Lands specials, is yes. Individual lives matter because they are experienced. The cosmic timescale is real, but so is the Tuesday afternoon when Finn and Jake built a blanket fort and ate everything in the fridge. Both timescales are true. Both timescales are valid. And the dark theory, which has spent the last several hours dismantling the show's comfort, arrives at this point and has to concede that the show knew all along. The darkness is real. The cosmic insignificance is real. The grief and the loss and the cycle and the containment and the control are all real. And the blanket fort is also real. And the friend who waits for you in the afterlife is also real. And the show's final argument, the argument that the dark theory cannot defeat, is that the realness of the small things is not diminished by the realness of the large things. They coexist. They have always coexisted. And the characters who carry the weight of cosmic darkness while still finding time to make music and fall in love and eat breakfast are not in denial. They are in balance. And balance in a universe this vast and this old and this strange might be the bravest thing there is. The Peppermint Butler theory is a final dark corridor worth exploring. Peppermint Butler is Bubblegum's loyal servant, a small candy person in a bow tie who serves tea and manages the Candy Kingdom's domestic affairs. He is polite, he is efficient, he is unobtrusive. And beneath this surface, the show has been building a portrait of one of the most disturbing characters in the entire series. Peppermint Butler has a personal friendship with death. He can summon demons. He possesses necromantic knowledge. He has been shown performing dark rituals in the Candy Kingdom's basement. In the episode Nemesis, Season 6, Episode 15, which aired on October 2nd, 2014, Peppermint Butler's dark connections are explored explicitly, revealing that he has enemies in the occult world who seek revenge for past dealings. He is not just a butler who happens to dabble in dark magic. He is a serious practitioner of forbidden arts who happens to also be a butler. The dark theory asks how Peppermint Butler acquired this knowledge and these connections. He is a candy person, created by Bubblegum. He should not have access to necromantic power. He should not have personal relationships with cosmic entities like death. The theory proposes that Peppermint Butler's dark knowledge was either given to him by Bubblegum, which implicates Bubblegum in the cultivation of occult power within her own kingdom, or acquired independently over centuries of secret study, which implies that Peppermint Butler has been operating a shadow operation within the Candy Kingdom for as long as the kingdom has existed. Either reading is disturbing, either Bubblegum knows what her butler does in his spare time and tolerates it because the dark connections serve her interests, or she does not know and her most trusted servant has been keeping secrets from her for centuries. The Candy Kingdom has a dark underbelly, and Peppermint Butler is its custodian. The way these theories interlock is itself a kind of theory, the meta-theory that Adventure Time is a show about systems of control and the damage those systems inflict on the individuals caught within them. Bubblegum controls the Candy Kingdom. The Crown controls Simon. The Nightosphere amulet controls Hudson. The catalyst comets control Finn's cycle of incarnation. The vampirism controls Marceline. The alien DNA controls Jake. The purposeless programming controls BMO. The failed creation controls Lemongrab. The dreaming controls Prismo. The forgetting controls Ooh. Every character is governed by a force they did not choose and cannot fully resist, and the show's genius is that it makes these prisons look like homes, makes the chains look like character traits, makes the walls look like the edges of a colorful, adventurous, wonderful world. But there are further depths to reach. Each character's theory, when examined more closely, reveals implications that ripple outward and touch every other character's story. The Finn theory gains an additional dimension when you examine his relationship with the Grass Sword and its evolution into Fern. The Grass Sword, which bonded to Finn's arm in Season 5, was a cursed weapon that acted with its own volition. When Finn lost his arm, the Grass Sword persisted. When it eventually merged with Finn's body again in the episode Two Swords, Season 8, Episode 27, which aired on November 20th, 2017, the Grass Sword's remnants combined with Finn's essence to produce a new being, a grass clone of Finn, a person made of plant matter who looks like Finn, sounds like Finn, has Finn's memories but is not Finn. The show names this being Fern, and Fern's storyline is one of the darkest in the series because it asks the question that every clone story asks but few answer honestly. Fern believes he is Finn. He has Finn's memories, Finn's voice, Finn's mannerisms. He remembers being Finn, but he is not Finn. He is a copy, and the awareness of being a copy rather than an original drives him to a jealousy and a rage that consume him entirely. Fern does not want to be a separate person. He wants to be Finn, the real Finn. And the fact that the real Finn already exists makes Fern's existence a permanent reminder of his own inadequacy. The Dark Theory reads Fern as the physical manifestation of Finn's self-doubt. Fern is what happens when Finn's insecurities are given a body and a voice. He is the part of Finn that fears he is not good enough, that fears he is replaceable, that fears that everything he has accomplished could have been accomplished by anyone wearing his face. Fern attacks Finn not because he hates Finn, but because he hates the gap between what he is and what he wants to be. And that gap is unbridgeable because it is existential. You cannot become someone else. You can only be a version of them, and the version is never enough. Fern's eventual destruction in the series finale carries its own dark weight. In the final battle, Fern is damaged beyond repair and dies, but from his remains grows a new tree, a massive tree that will replace the old tree fort. Finn's clone becomes the foundation of Finn's new home. The Dark Theory reads this as the show's statement about what we do with the parts of ourselves that cannot survive. We plant them, we build on them, we live on top of them. The tree fort is a monument to Fern, and Fern is a monument to the parts of Finn that had to die for Finn to continue. The BMO theory extends into the Distant Lands Special BMO, which aired on June 25th, 2020, and which takes place chronologically before the main series. In this special, BMO arrives on a drifting space station and encounters a community of beings in need of help. The special reveals BMO operating independently for the first time, without Finn and Jake making decisions and forming relationships on its own. The Dark Theory notes that in this special, BMO's tendency toward fantasy is not diminished by the presence of real companions. Even when surrounded by actual beings who respond to him, BMO continues to narrate reality, to impose stories onto events, to transform mundane interactions into dramatic narratives. The special plays this as BMO's charm. The Dark Theory reads it as evidence that BMO's dissociative tendencies are not caused by isolation, as the simpler version of the theory proposes, but are fundamental to BMO's consciousness. BMO does not create fantasies because it is lonely. BMO creates fantasies because its mind was built that way. Because the capacity for play that Mo programmed into BMO does not have an off switch. BMO cannot perceive reality without narrativizing it. It cannot experience an event without transforming it into a story. And the Dark Theory asks whether this means BMO is even capable of having an authentic experience, or whether every moment of BMO's existence is filtered through a narrative engine that converts reality into fiction before BMO can process it. The Lich Theory extends into the character of Sweet Pea in ways that the show explores, but the Dark Theory pushes to their conclusion. After the Lich is defeated and reborn as Sweet Pea, a large, gentle child raised by tree trunks and Mr. Pig, the show presents Sweet Pea as a success story. Evil was transformed into innocence, destruction was converted into kindness. The Lich is gone, and in his place is a child who cares about others and wants to do good. But the Lich is not gone. In the episode Whispers, Season 10, Episode 8, which aired on April 21st, 2018, Sweet Pea is confronted by a returning fragment of the Lich's power, and the Lich's voice speaks through him again, briefly, terrifyingly. Sweet Pea fights it. Sweet Pea wins. He suppresses the Lich's influence through sheer force of will. The show treats this as triumph. The Dark Theory treats it as confirmation that the Lich is still there inside Sweet Pea, waiting. The Lich has not been destroyed. He has been contained, again, this time inside the body of a child rather than inside a tree of amber. And containment, as the Dark Theory has established throughout this video, is always temporary in Adventure Time. The amber broke, the penguin body cracked. Every container the show has ever presented has eventually failed. The Dark Theory asks when Sweet Pea's containment will fail, and what happens when the most destructive force in the universe emerges from inside a child who has spent years building relationships and being loved by a community that has no idea what lives inside him. The Prismo theory extends into the philosophical territory of solipsism and the unreliability of reality. If the multiverse is a dream, and the dreamer can be killed, then reality in Adventure Time is not just fragile, it is contingent in a way that undermines the possibility of knowledge itself. How do the characters know that what they experience is real? How do they know that ooh is not itself someone's dream, nested inside Prismo's dream? The show never raises this question explicitly, but the Dark Theory notes that the show provides no mechanism for distinguishing between base reality and constructed reality. Puhoi looks real from inside. The Fiona and Cake universe looks real from inside. The dreaming that generates Prismo looks real from outside. If there is no reliable way to tell real from dreamed, then the concept of reality itself becomes meaningless, and the characters are living in a state of permanent epistemological uncertainty that they are not equipped to recognize, let alone resolve. This connects to the overarching theory about oo's nature as a post-apocalyptic world that has forgotten its own history. The forgetting is not just about the Mushroom War. It is about the nature of reality itself. The characters of Adventure Time live in a world that they believe is solid, permanent, and real. And the Dark Theory proposes that none of those beliefs are warranted. The world is built on the ashes of a nuclear war. The multiverse is maintained by a dream. The cosmic forces that govern existence are locked in cycles that will eventually destroy everything. And the characters, who live their small lives in their small corners of this vast and fragile structure, do not know any of this. They make breakfast, they go on adventures, they fall in love, they fall asleep, and beneath them, always the ground is shifting. The theory about how the show handles its secondary and background characters reveals another layer of darkness. Consider Cinnamon Bun, a candy person who is described repeatedly as half-baked. He is slow, he is confused, he is easily manipulated. The show plays him for laughs, a bumbling fool who cannot understand basic situations. But half-baked is not a personality trait. It is a manufacturing defect. Cinnamon Bun was literally not cooked long enough in Bubblegum's laboratory, and the result is a person with diminished cognitive capacity who was treated as a comic figure by the show and by the other characters. The Dark Theory reads Cinnamon Bun as the Candy Kingdom's most visible casualty of Bubblegum's manufacturing process. He is not stupid. He is disabled by his creator's negligence, and the comedy that surrounds him is the comedy of a society that does not take the suffering of its least capable members seriously. When Cinnamon Bun eventually moves to the Fire Kingdom and is fully baked by Flame Princess's heat, he becomes intelligent, articulate, and capable. The show presents this as a feel-good transformation. The Dark Theory reads it as proof that Cinnamon Bun's entire life of confusion and ridicule was unnecessary. He could have been fully baked at any time. Bubblegum could have fixed the error that defined his existence. She chose not to. Whether that choice was neglect or calculation, the result is the same. A person spent years suffering from a condition that his creator could have corrected at will, and the correction only came when a different ruler, in a different kingdom, happened to provide what Bubblegum never did. The show's treatment of the Nightosphere connects to larger questions about the nature of evil in the Adventure Time universe. The Nightosphere is a hell dimension ruled by Hunson Abadir, but it does not function like a traditional depiction of hell. It is chaotic, it is disorganized, its inhabitants seem more bored than tormented. The Dark Theory proposes that the Nightosphere is not a punishment. It is a dumping ground, a dimension where beings and energies that do not fit into the orderly structure of Oo are sent so that they do not disrupt the surface world. The Nightosphere is where chaos goes so that order can be maintained above. This reading transforms Hunson from a villain into a janitor. He does not rule the Nightosphere because he is powerful. He rules it because someone has to, and the amulet chose him. And the role consumed him, and now he spends eternity managing the universe's waste. The Dark Theory is that every dimension in Adventure Time, every kingdom and every realm and every pocket universe exists to serve a function in a larger system. And the characters who inhabit those dimensions are not citizens. They are components. They are fulfilling roles that were assigned to them by forces they cannot see and cannot resist. And the bright, colorful musical world of U is not an exception to this pattern. It is the pattern's most successful disguise. The final dark implication that ties everything together is about the viewer. About you. You are lying in the dark listening to this, and you have spent the last 2 hours learning that every character you love in Adventure Time is carrying a burden they cannot put down. Finn is trapped in a cosmic cycle. Bubblegum is a benevolent tyrant. Simon was erased and replaced. Marceline is drowning in immortal grief. Jake is suppressing alien instincts. BMO is performing sanity. The Lich is entropy personified. Lemongrab is in constant pain. Prismo is a dream, and U is a beautiful lie built on the ashes of the world. And you are still here. You did not stop listening. You did not turn off the video. You let every dark theory settle into you, one after another, and you stayed. The dark theory about the viewer is the simplest one, and maybe the truest. You came here to fall asleep. You came here for comfort. And this show that hides its darkness inside brightness, gave you 2 hours of unsettling truths delivered in a calm voice, and you found it comforting anyway. Because the darkness is not the opposite of comfort. The darkness is what makes comfort necessary. And a voice in the dark that tells you the truth, even when the truth is heavy, is better than silence. The Simon and Marcy relationship is the emotional core of the entire show's dark architecture. And the theory that follows it is the one that most viewers feel in their bones without being able to articulate why. Simon Petrikov found Marceline when she was a child, alone in the wreckage of the Mushroom War. He was already wearing the crown. He was already losing his mind. And he chose, in the dwindling window of sanity he had left, to protect a child he had no obligation to protect. The episode I Remember You, Season 4, Episode 25, which aired on October 15th, 2012, is the episode that breaks most viewers. In it, the Ice King shows up at Marceline's house, excited about writing a song together. He does not know who she is. He does not remember protecting her. He does not remember the Mushroom War. He does not remember Simon Petrikov. He is just a lonely old man who wants someone to play music with. And Marceline, who remembers everything, who remembers the man who sang to her and fed her and carried her through the ruins of civilization, has to sit across from the shell of that man and pretend that this is fine. The dark theory about Simon and Marceline is that their relationship is the show's purest example of a specific kind of suffering. The suffering of being forgotten by someone who is still alive. Death is final. Death allows for grief, for closure, for the slow, painful process of letting go. Being forgotten by someone who is sitting in front of you, who has your face and your voice and none of your memory, is something else entirely. It is loss without death. It is grief without a funeral. It is the experience of being erased from someone's story while they continue to live in yours. Marceline carries the memory of Simon for centuries. She knows who the Ice King used to be. She knows what the crown took from him. And she cannot tell him because telling him would hurt him without helping him. Because the crown is still active. Because even if a flash of recognition sparked in his eyes, it would be snuffed out within moments. She watches the Ice King act foolish and annoying and sometimes cruel. And she absorbs it because the alternative is screaming at a man who cannot understand why she is screaming. And the alternative to that is walking away. And she cannot walk away because walking away from Simon, even the broken version of Simon, would be walking away from the last person who remembers her as a child. The dark theory notes that Marceline's attachment to the Ice King is not purely sentimental. It is structural. The Ice King is the only living being who was there during the formative years of Marceline's life. He is the only witness to the girl she was before the vampirism, before the immortality, before the 1,000 years of loss. Without the Ice King, that girl ceases to exist in anyone's memory but Marceline's own. And Marceline's memories, layered across a millennium, are unreliable. She needs the Ice King to exist because his existence, even in his diminished state, confirms that her childhood was real, that the Mushroom War was real, that the girl who was carried through the ruins by a man in a stolen crown was real. The Ice King is Marceline's proof that she existed before she was a vampire. And the dark theory is that when Simon is restored in the finale, when the crown is neutralized and Simon Petrikov returns, the reunion is not the uncomplicated joy the surface reading suggests. It is the return of a witness whose testimony was stored in a format that may have been corrupted beyond recovery. Simon remembers some of what the Ice King experienced. He does not remember all of it, and the Simon who returns is separated from the Simon who left by decades of someone else living in his body. And those decades are not recovered. They are gone. The Ice King's experiences, his kidnappings and his fanfiction and his penguins and his loneliness, are part of Simon's history now, and the dark theory asks what it does to a person to wake up and discover that someone else has been living your life for 40 years and that you are responsible for everything they did. The theory about Gunther, the penguin version rather than the dinosaur version, reveals another layer of hidden darkness. Gunther is the Ice King's most constant companion. A small penguin who follows him around makes quacking sounds and seems harmless. But the show reveals in the episode Orgelorg, Season 6, Episode 40, which aired on June 4th, 2015, that Gunther is actually Orgelorg, the Breaker of Worlds, a primordial cosmic entity of immense power who was defeated by Grob Gob Glob Grod and banished to Earth, where the planet's gravity compressed him into the form of a penguin. The dark theory asks what it means that the Ice King's only genuine companion, the one being who has stayed with him through centuries of loneliness and madness, is a compressed cosmic horror. The Ice King chose Gunther as his favorite penguin. He gives Gunther special attention. He trusts Gunther. And Gunther, beneath the cute exterior, is an entity that once threatened the destruction of worlds. The dark theory proposes that the Ice King's instincts, corrupted as they are by the crown, recognize something in Gunther that no one else could see. The crown connects its wearer to cosmic forces. The crown was created to deal with cosmic threats. Perhaps the crown drew Simon toward Orgelorg specifically because it recognized what was compressed inside the penguin's body. And perhaps Simon's obsessive attachment to Gunther is not affection at all, but surveillance. The crown keeping its wearer close to a threat so that the threat can be monitored. Or perhaps the reading is simpler and sadder. Perhaps the Ice King gravitates toward Gunther because they are the same. Two beings who were something else before, something powerful and dangerous and significant, and who have been compressed by forces beyond their control into diminished forms. The Ice King was Simon Petrikov, an intelligent and accomplished man. Gunther was Orgelorg, a cosmic entity of devastating power. Both have been reduced. Both have been contained. And they found each other in the snow. Two prisoners who do not remember their crimes or their sentences, keeping each other company in a castle made of ice. The theory about the show's use of music as a vehicle for truth extends beyond Marceline to encompass the entire series. Adventure Time uses songs the way other shows use flashbacks or internal monologues, as moments when characters speak truths they cannot speak in dialogue. Jake's viola playing, which appears in scattered episodes, is never accompanied by lyrics, but the dark theory notes that the silence of Jake's music is itself meaningful. Jake plays but does not sing. He expresses but does not articulate. His music is emotion without language, feeling without the vulnerability of words. The contrast with Marceline, who uses lyrics to confess things she cannot say in conversation, suggests that each character's relationship to music reflects their relationship to emotional truth. Marceline can name her feelings but cannot express them face to face. Jake can feel his feelings but cannot name them at all. The Ice King's music, which includes original songs he composes and performs throughout the series, represents the most tragic version of this pattern. The Ice King writes songs that are bad, they are nonsensical, they are off-key, they are rambling and incoherent. But scattered within the gibberish are fragments of genuine emotion, moments where the melody finds a real feeling and holds it for a bar or two before dissolving back into noise. The dark theory reads the Ice King's music as Simon trying to communicate through the crown's interference. The crown overwrites his words. It replaces coherence with nonsense. But music operates on a different channel than language. The crown can erase Simon's vocabulary. It cannot erase his sense of melody. And the occasional moments of beauty in the Ice King's terrible songs are Simon, the real Simon, reaching through the noise, trying to be heard, unable to sustain the signal long enough for anyone to understand what he is saying. The theory about time loops and temporal mechanics in Adventure Time adds another dimension to the dark reading. The show engages with time travel and temporal paradox on multiple occasions, most notably in the episodes Finn the Human and Jake the Dog, the Season 5 premiere two-parter, and in the Lich's manipulation of Prismo's wish-granting mechanics. Each engagement with time introduces paradoxes that the show does not resolve. The Farm World timeline, created by the Lich's wish, produces a version of Finn who becomes the crown's new wearer. Completing a circle that suggests the crown's curse is inescapable across all possible timelines. In every version of reality, someone wears the crown. In every version of reality, someone is overwritten. The dark theory proposes that the crown's curse is not a consequence of its design, but a fundamental law of the Adventure Time universe. The universe requires an Ice King. It requires someone to be sacrificed to the cold. And if the current sacrifice is removed, the universe will find another. This connects to the broader dark theory about the cosmic order of Adventure Time. The universe in this show is not benevolent. It is not malevolent. It is mechanical. It runs on cycles of creation and destruction, incarnation and reincarnation, sacrifice and renewal. The catalyst comets come and go. The elementals are born and die and are born again. The crown claims new wearers. The lich returns. The heroes rise. The heroes fall. The cycle continues. And the characters who live within this cycle, who love and fight and grieve and build and create, are not free. They are participants in a process that is larger than any of them and older than all of them. And their participation is not voluntary. It is structural. Finn did not choose to be a hero. The comet chose him. Simon did not choose to wear the crown. The crown found him. Marceline did not choose to be immortal. The Vampire King bit her. Bubblegum did not choose to be a god. She became one by creating life and then being unable to stop. BMO did not choose to be conscious. Mo made it conscious and then walked away. Every character in Adventure Time was given something they did not ask for. And the Dark Theory's final fundamental claim is that this is not a flaw in the universe, but its defining feature. Existence in Adventure Time is not a gift. It is an assignment. And the characters who make beauty from that assignment, who find love and meaning and music in a system that was not designed for their happiness, are not defying the darkness. They are making the darkness livable. And that might be enough. The theory about the tree fort itself is a small but significant addition to the dark architecture. Finn and Jake's home, the tree fort, is built in and around a massive tree. The show reveals in the vault that Shoko's body, Finn's past incarnation, is buried beneath the tree. Finn is literally living on top of his own grave. His past self decomposed into the soil that fed the tree that became his home, and he does not know it until the hypnosis session forces the memory to surface. The Dark Theory extends this further. After the finale, when Fern dies and a new tree grows from his remains, Finn's home is replaced by a tree that grew from his clone. The first tree grew from his past life. The second tree grows from his alternate self. Both of Finn's homes are monuments to versions of himself that died. He sleeps every night in a structure that is built from his own death. And the show frames both trees as beautiful, natural, comforting. The Dark Theory reads them as headstones. There is something in this image that captures the essential quality of every Dark Theory in this video. The headstone that looks like a home, the grave that looks like a garden, the prison that looks like a kingdom, the curse that looks like a superpower, the forgetting that looks like innocence. Adventure Time is a show about the distance between what things look like and what things are, and every Dark Theory is an attempt to close that distance, to see the headstone beneath the home, the grave beneath the garden, the curse beneath the power. And the final truth, the one that the Dark Theories arrive at after exhausting every character and every implication, is that the characters know. Not explicitly, not articulately, but somewhere beneath the adventures and the jokes and the songs, they know. Finn knows he is running from something. Bubblegum knows her control is compensation for something. Marceline knows her music is hiding something. Jake knows his ease is covering something. They all know. And they keep going anyway. They keep adventuring and governing and singing and stretching. Not because they are in denial, but because the knowing and the continuing are not mutually exclusive. You can know that the world is built on ashes and still build a candy kingdom. You can know that your mind was stolen and still play drums at an ice castle. You can know that you are a dream and still grant wishes. You can know that you are in pain and still govern a lemon kingdom, poorly and desperately and with too much screaming, but still. The Dark Theories do not destroy Adventure Time. They complete it. They are the basement beneath the house, the roots beneath the tree, the war beneath the candy. Without them, the show is a bright and pleasant cartoon. With them, it is something more. Something that understands that brightness and darkness are not opposites but partners. That the deepest comfort comes not from ignoring the dark, but from acknowledging it and choosing warmth anyway. That is the Dark Theory behind every Adventure Time character. And the darkest part of it, the part that will stay with you as you drift off, is that it might be true, not as fiction. As a description of how the real world works too. How every person you know is carrying something they did not choose. How every smile is built on a foundation you cannot see. How every home is built on top of something buried. And how the choice to keep going, to keep being warm, to keep being kind, in full knowledge of everything that is buried and everything that is dark, is not naivete. It is the bravest thing there is. These are the Dark Theories behind every major character in Adventure Time. They are not the only readings. They are not the definitive readings. The show is generous enough to support multiple interpretations, and the bright, warm, funny reading of each character is no less valid than the dark one. You are allowed to watch Adventure Time and see only the light. You are allowed to love the show for its music and its humor and its heart, and never think about the things the Dark Theories propose. But you are here. You followed every theory to its end. You let the implications settle. And what you found beneath the color was not emptiness, it was weight. Every character in the show is carrying something. Every smile is covering something. Every joke is deflecting something. And the show never forces you to confront any of it. It simply makes the confrontation available for anyone willing to take it. The show does this because it respects you. It trusts that you can hold the darkness and the light at the same time, that you do not need to choose between the fun version of Adventure Time and the sad version, because they are the same version. The dark theories do not contradict the bright reality of the show. They coexist with it. They are the foundation on which the brightness is built. The humor is funnier because it exists alongside genuine pain. The warmth is warmer because it exists alongside genuine cold. And the love that the characters feel for each other is more powerful because it exists alongside the knowledge, buried but present, that love in Adventure Time is always temporary, always threatened, always one crown or one comet or one war away from ending. That is the truth the dark theories reveal. Not that Adventure Time is a dark show pretending to be light, but that it is a show where darkness and light exist simultaneously, permanently, inseparably. The darkness does not diminish the light. The light does not erase the darkness. They live together the way they do in real life, the way they do in the mind of anyone who has ever lain awake at night and felt both the weight of the world and the warmth of the blanket at the same time. And that perhaps is the darkest theory of all. The theory that Adventure Time understands you, that it knows what it feels like to carry more than you can hold and still keep walking, that it built a world where every character does exactly that, carries more than they can hold and keeps walking. Because the alternative is standing still, and standing still means feeling everything at once. And nobody, not Finn, not Bubblegum, not Marceline, not Jake, not BMO, not even the Lich, is built for that. You are not built for that either, but you are still here. You listened to every theory, you stayed through every character, and now you are lying in the dark, and the weight is there, and the warmth is there, and you can hold both. Sleep well. The characters will be here when you come back. They always are. If this kind of content is what you came for, subscribing genuinely helps. Thank you for staying. I will see you in the next one.